Howdy there, folks. Welcome into today's video. Palantir CEO out with some pretty big comments in relation to how their AI product's going. Let's just jump straight into this.
Focus in DC is one, to basically embarrass other people in AI to work with the U.S. government. It's like, we're doing very well here. You should also get involved.
All right, so you're kicking off this inaugural summit today. You have a lot of U.S. leaders here in government and defense and other areas of the government. Right now today, with so much focus on AI and the potential of AI, what is Palantir's focus when it comes to its work with the U.S. government?
Well, there are two things we're working on. One is Palantir related, but arguably even more importantly, the U.S. Has every major provider of AI, which is in every other industrial revolution, you've had a just diversity of countries that have had the talent and the products. In this revolution, they're really all in America. So how do we get the U.S. government to use innovation from providers? Very few of these providers work closely or closely enough with the U.S. government. Now, in part, that's because many of these providers have had a somewhat timid view of helping the U.S. government. The Silicon Valley motto has been, I get rich, you get nothing. And they've obviously often extended that to the U.S. government. So my focus and our focus in D.C. is one, to basically embarrass other people in AI to work with the U.S. government. It's like, we're doing very well here. You should also get involved. To talk to legislators, to explain to them that way too few of our dollars are being spent on AI. Palantir is one of, I think, the first company since the 50s that has produced government products that are in high demand commercially. So how do we get more companies that have commercially available products, meaning products that are proven?
All right, so folks, this is extremely important, okay? Extremely important. If you really want to understand how important is a company like Palantir, okay, in the AI market over time, here's the deal, okay? Look at the lineup that Alex Karp, Palantir CEO, was with. He was with Elon Musk, Satya Nadella, the Microsoft CEO, right? The Tesla CEO, Microsoft CEO, Jensen Huang, obviously the NVIDIA CEO, Zuck, Meta CEO, Sam Altman, which is the CEO of OpenAI, right? Sundar Pichai, which is Google McDougal's CEO, Bill Gates, I don't think I need an introduction for him, right? You got this gentleman who I can never pronounce his name right, but he's the IBM CEO, okay? And IBM actually is going to be a player in AI, believe it or not. And I know old Big Blue, I've been actually doing some research on them recently. And then you got Eric Schmidt, who is certainly the former CEO of Google McDougal, right? Yeah, you're not going to have all those folks in one room unless they're all extremely important and vital to kind of the future of AI. And so the fact that Alex Karp is in there with those guys is big, okay? Big.
In a competitive environment into the U.S.
And by the way, I don't want this to be lost on folks, but there was a part he just mentioned where he thinks the government's not spending nearly enough on AI. So he wants to see the government obviously ramp up AI spending aggressively, it sounds like.
And how do we share knowledge? So that's the part that we're doing here. We have a lot of clients, many of which are sensitive, and they get to talk to each other here about what they're doing, what's worked, and what's not.
All right, we'll talk more about your clients in just a bit. I do want to ask you, just a few days ago, you were in Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer's AI meeting. It was a closed-door meeting. The press and the public not in the room, not allowed in the room. A lot of big-name tech leaders were there. We're talking Bill Gates, Sundar Pichai, Mark Zuckerberg. What was said there? Can you give us your takeaway? The headlines were it was all about regulating AI and government regulation. And also, I want to ask you, do you think the public should have been allowed in the room?
Well, by the way, I can't remember if Alex Karp even addresses that. Should the public be allowed in the room? I think there should have been cameras in the room for some things other than just this quick little photo op. I don't think they should have had to take questions or anything like that, but I think that would have been great to just have some cameras in that room, right? And just hear the discussions. I think, imagine the views that would have gotten. Like, it would have seemed like a boring subject, but I'm just telling you, could you imagine the views that would have gotten with all those people in one room and the discussions that would have gone on? Oh my gosh.
So the overarching discussion was, how do you advance artificial intelligence, meaning how do we allow especially commercial enterprises in America to adopt AI, develop AI, and provide it to the U.S. government and enterprise while simultaneously mitigating some of the obvious risks of AI. Namely, one, we don't know where the road is going, and what happens if generative AI becomes so powerful that, in fact, it's a risk to humankind. Okay, so that is a real issue, and there's a lot of consensus that we have to have some way of mitigating the risk. Then there are other discussions of, on the way there, how do you have artificial intelligence that has governance, guardrails, can prove that it's not discriminatory? And then there's the issue I'm passionate about is, given the risks, we also have to model as one of the greatest risks that our adversaries, namely Russia or China, develop tools that are vastly superior to ours and change the world order. I thought it was a very, very productive discussion. I guess it's an unpopular view that occasionally you have to begin discussions in private, but it is my view. And I'm sure at some point these discussions will be open and no legislation will happen. But in the end, we all have to come in there and say, this is what I really believe. It's already very hard to get people to show up and kind of go naked, but they're not going to go naked in public with public scrutiny. And there's a super heterogeneous group of people there, from union leaders to tech leaders. Among tech leaders, you have kind of more corporate-y people, then you have the freak show. So getting us...
You're referring to yourself, but self-deprecation understood. I do want to ask you about one thing. We just showed some video of you sitting next to Elon Musk, and you said, how do you get to use AI in a way that doesn't hurt humanity? That's a question that he's been wrestling with. He's been talking about the dangers of AI. So were there in-depth discussions about how to use AI responsibly, as you mentioned, so it's not discriminatory, so it doesn't actually hurt humanity?
Yeah, though that's what we discussed, and there were
do you have details? Are there some details you can share?
Well, I mean, I can tell you what I said, which is I said, look, there are two camps. There's those that think AI is safe and those that think it's dangerous. And I'm in a third camp, which is it is dangerous. And if we don't actually work on it, our adversaries will, and we will lose all of our human rights. That was my position. And I think that is the...
You could tell Alex Karp's mindset's so different than obviously, certainly, probably anybody else in that room, because obviously Palantir's work with the government over the years and on the battlefield and everything that goes on there. He just has a very different view of competition, the world. If we're not the leaders in the United States of America, Europe's certainly not going to lead, because we know Europe's just not very forward thinking in regards to a lot of these products. So then it would end up being, maybe countries leading that you really don't want to be leading in a space that could be seen as very dangerous over time, which is AI, right?
So ELF stock, which has been a tremendous stock for me over the past few years, been even a bigger gainer for me in terms of percent than actually good old Tesla Tesla. This stock was down almost $11,000 for us here today. It was down well over 8%. And so right off the bat, I'm like, man, that's not usually a stock that falls just that much randomly. So there's got to be some sort of news in regards to this, right? And I look, and I look, and I look, and I scour the internet for news in regards to ELF, and there's absolutely nothing. The last time there was any significant news with ELF was back at the end of August, when they bought out another brand, essentially, for about $355 million. And some analysts have some things to say about that. And I'm looking and I'm like, what is this share volume? And basically the share volume was over double what the average amount here today is, okay? And I'm like, what is going on? So usually if I can't find news in regards to it, the next place I'll look is my private group's Discord chat, because sometimes we have, we have 1,000+ members in there and so many folks that are focused on the markets, right? And so I'm like, maybe there's something in there. Couldn't find anything in there. I was so desperate to try to find news in regards to ELF. You know what I did? I went to the forum boards. I was like, maybe the forum boards are talking about something. Like, that's my last ditched effort of let's just call it, I need to find out what's going on. And I didn't see anything in regards to forums, which, by the way, forums, don't go on forums, okay, unless you want your intelligence to go down a little bit, because I'm just telling you, it's ridiculous. It just, every one of these forums is like the same thing, just people either talking trash or like, I'm loading up on this stock. It cracks me up, man. Always very entertaining. So there was no news in regards to ELF, but the stock was down 8 to 9% today. So somebody was putting insane selling pressure on the stock, and has been actually putting some selling pressure on that, because the stock's fallen quite a bit in the past few trading days. So there's something going on there. Maybe somebody knows something, or maybe somebody's just looking and like, I just want to cash out some shares in regards to this one, right? Now, the divergence between ELF and Estee Lauder has been nothing short of shocking this year. Absolutely shocking, okay? ELF is up over 100% so far year to date, and that's even after this epic fall here recently in regards to stock, right? Meanwhile, Estee Lauder is down nearly 40%, which just goes to show you how much inflation's really hit consumers this year, where Estee Lauder just hasn't shown any, real strength in their business. While Elf, which sells almost everything for Elf, is $10 or less, and most things are $20 or less, whereas Estee Lauder is really like $50 and up and really $100 and up, right? Clear divergence going on there. I don't think it's going to stay like that forever. I do believe, if you're wondering, do I think Estee Lauder stock is coming back? Okay, my belief is, yes, Estee Lauder stock is coming back. I do think that is a long-term buy. It's a great company. I don't personally own any shares right now, but I could own some shares in the future. Let's just call it that, okay? So definitely like Estee Lauder. For the long term, it's just not a stock that is in a good place in the short term, okay?